Welcome to episode 2 of our Woo Congress 2026 specials. It's going to be a bit of a weird one, this, because we've done one of the interviews already, but I've lost Hugh Todd. Oh, hang on. He's just sent me a voice note. What's that?
Hey mate, sorry I had to dash. As you know, I have a train to catch. Europe beckons for Mr. Todd. But I realised we didn't record our usual intro, damn. So anyway, here's a lovely voice note for you, because I know how much you love voice notes. Anyway, listen, hope this afternoon goes well, mate. We've got a mega lineup, some people from all over the world, so super happy I was there for the early sesh. Obviously you're going to smash it without me this afternoon, but let me know how it goes, mate. Cheers.
Well, there you have it, folks. He's just fucked off to Europe. I guess we should just get on with the show. We are honoured to be joined by my former colleague and still friend, Jay Young, who is the MD of Grand Visual.
Hi guys, thank you for having me.
Hello,
You're on Behind the Billboard. We've talked about it so many times.
We have talked about it a lot, and I've never been on one, so thank you for having me. 2, it's my first ever podcast. So.
First ever podcast. Yeah. Oh, don't listen to it back.
I listen to them daily, but I've never been on one.
Oh, and then now you've been on one, right? Everyone's going to say, well, have you been on a podcast? Shall I listen to it? And you're going to go, no.
Absolutely not. Don't come anywhere near it.
It's so niche.
When you hear your voice for the first time, you just want to die. But we're 100 episodes in.
Yeah.
There's no way.
We always talk about our wives, and our wives don't listen, so it's fine.
It's lucky for you.
It's a Jeopardy thing.
I get told I sound way more posh, which is not.
You've got your telephone voice on.
Yeah. It's like, nudge it down.
We need to drop him a couple of beers, and then he'll start
That
slipping.
would have been a nice way to start.
That's what we normally do.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I would have liked that.
Hugh's going to kick us off with the question.
In the next 12 months and beyond, what creative and innovation leaps are you hoping to see to help boost out of home in your market and globally? Fucking hell, who wrote that?
I know.
ChatGPT.
Essay question.
No, but what do you see is coming up? That's
you know what, this actually, it's what I'm talking about tomorrow. So on the panel, we're talking about how is AI affecting media owners at the moment and how it might affect people in the future. And the theory we've got is that ultimately AI is going to very quickly democratize good content. Not necessarily good creative, but content. Like you can make good things look great quite quickly, being an average Joe in a bedroom. So if everyone can do that, then kind of quality content from a look and feel perspective doesn't necessarily give you that nudge ahead that it used to. So relevance, I think, becomes the next creative edge and becomes really important. I think you're like the answer to this, Dan, because for 10 years ago, you were doing DCO campaigns for the likes of Google, and actually they're probably still best in market examples now, because there was a huge gap between that period of kind of DCO becoming available and now. And I think finally, with programmatic coming into the market, planning and buying behaviors are changing, AI allowing it, I think that relevancy is going to be a big request from clients.
I think it's a fair comment. I think if I think back to the early days of dynamic digital out of home, or DCO as it's been coined, it was still being worked on at a high level by some great creative agencies. So there's intelligent thought behind the creative, and I think what happened over the following kind of 10 years of dynamic is, I think, to lower the barrier to entry, campaigns have been templatized, like here's a weather campaign, and that kind of stuff almost dumbed down what is actually a smart piece of technology. And I think if we're going to use AI to its fullest potential as a tool to help creative tell more of a story, then we need to get back to the earlier days of creative thought in order to use AI to improve the speed in which the message gets out there. And that could be down to predictive analytics around the data, or it could be around using the data in smart ways with AI doing something to change the message.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time, because at the minute we've got digital out of home has given us the ability to change creative quite quickly, and that's great. But actually, in all other walks of life, we deal with responsive media. So like your Google Maps automatically diverts you around car crashes. Spotify gives me a chill out playlist in the evening, but actually out of home isn't quite doing that yet. And I think we need to start moving towards a responsive channel.
Yep.
That's challenging, but like I said, I think the changing behavior around the way we use conditions to plan programmatic opens up the conversation, and people start going, oh, actually, you know what? It makes sense. If I'm buying it on X, I'll deliver my creative on Y, and now the friction isn't quite as perhaps painful as it used to be.
That's really cool. Obviously, I know the grand visual business intimately.
Very, very well.
The other side of your business is experiential and special builds and projections.
Yeah.
Are you seeing the technology come into play in those areas as well?
I would say less so in the end activation, but significantly in the selling.
Okay.
So being able to take an idea and get a client excited about it and build that emotional response to something and then get it over the line, that's now far quicker, far easier, and it moves at pace. The challenge is that the assumption with all of these big physical builds and real stuff is that we're also developing at the speed of light, and we're not. Like these builds are being built by people in a factory.
Well, you
in
say,
Manchester.
I love it. Can we put it in next week? And you say, no, that's a 10-week
Daily.
build.
But it's really like, it's squeezing and squeezing. And so you say yes and yes, 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 yes. And before you know it, like your average 6-week lead time it's already
also
full.
the worry is when you use tools to make the stuff look amazing to sell it in, and then when it doesn't look like that in the real life, then it's like, and that is
we've
dangerous.
flipped that. So already we've noted that is an issue. And so we don't use photoreal mock-ups. Certainly if they're AI generated now, we make sure that they're sketch and scamps. Because you've got to give someone this is generally like an idea. This is a concept. This is not the end product, because that is dangerous. The interesting challenge as well though is that increasingly people further upstream, shall we put it, are using AI themselves too.
Yeah, of course.
But haven't quite got that production knowledge to have filtered what is possible and what isn't possible. So suddenly you get something that's like, the client loves this, let's make this happen. I'm like, whoa,
where the fuck
good
did
luck
that
with that.
But also it goes back to this thing about being the trusted medium. Then I don't know where this is where you're going, but like the fake outdoor sort of thing that came and went, you kind of going, that in itself is wrong because it's a trusted medium, it's real.
But they were using it because it was a trusted medium. Anyway, we must move on because we've got loads of people to get through. Jay, you've worked in the industry a long time. You and I have worked together a long time. What is your favorite billboard of mine? I mean, of all time. Why?
Do you know what? I was thinking about this question, and one of them was actually yours, but I'm not going to talk about it. It was the Hiscox. I actually think it's incredible. But for me, it was personal. So BBC Dracula, Shadow Billboard.
Fantastic campaign.
It was, for those of you that haven't seen it, a billboard. Well, the brief was, how do we make Dracula come out at night? And so it was actually 2 billboards, a load of 3D stakes, big kind of Dracula-esque stakes in the side of a billboard. But when you shone a light on it at night, it effectively made Dracula's face. And BBC Creative were absolutely fantastic as part of this, because they were capable of like pushing it even further. So it's like, how can we add little touches here and there to make it feel really kind of one, emotional, but 2, like it felt like an entertainment experience as opposed to a billboard. And we actually had 3 different ideas, and we tested them and made mini versions of them all leading up to it as well. So the journey was like the best in class example of getting there. And then when it went live, just before we went into lockdown in 2020, I believe. And I stood there, saw it on the street, and the number of people on Brixton Road that just stopped. Like a couple of guys got off their bikes, started taking photos.
Wow, that's great.
And when that happens, you're like, this is what
that's
we want.
That's the moment, that's the moment.
Because ultimately they looked at it and they went, that's fucking cool. I like it. It made them smile, and I want to share it with a friend. And that's when you know you've done your job well. And then also when you wake up to like 500,000 likes and views the next day.
And it wins awards, and
it won loads of awards. It was literally on news channels all around the world. Like
good.
They truly embedded that into kind of culture, which is the end goal.
Brilliant.
Well, Jay, thank you very much for sparing the time. Back to the sushi.
Yeah, back to
Cheers,
sushi.
Jay.
Thank you guys.
Nick Bell from Billups, Managing Director UK. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome, to your hometown. We're at the Woo Conference, or Woo Congress 2026 in London.
31 years in the industry, and this is the first time it comes to London.
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
It is, and the support of it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so many people downstairs. It's incredible.
It is literally like a who's who of outdoor.
Who's who? There
literally,
you go.
yeah. Who's
like
woo?
Who's woo?
It was, and it's really good. And actually, the call to actions have been really interesting. Some of them I feel like are what the industry should be getting behind. There's some of them which are old news, and I feel like we haven't really tackled them, and I can sense the frustrations in some people. But it is energetic, it is exciting, and it's a challenge that I think we're all up for. So excited to see what the next few years.
I thought Jean-Francois's one this morning I thought was brilliant, because it certainly. He was pointing during it as well. He was telling the audience that, we all need to be better at these things, and that there is a tangible result for us if we can get it right.
It felt very political.
Yeah.
The way he was almost canvassing for votes, the passion, and you saw it with Dallas as well. And I'm certainly not saying it's not there in the other media owners, but JC do lead the charge, I think, when it comes to that tub thumping approach to we are not fighting amongst ourselves as an industry. We need to be looking externally and challenging one another. And we spend far too long navel gazing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really exciting that particularly Jean-Francois, it was almost the perfect opening to, if not the perfect opening to any conference that you could have, and it set the tone beautifully.
It also is that it goes back to the kind of the evolve or die, right? That is what this industry will have to do. It has to change things, and you cannot just sit here. There's no resting on your laurels. We're going to have to change things. Technology is changing things. AI is changing things, but the technology is making things better for media owners, and there's more measurement, there's more effectiveness, there are tools out there that are helping us. So I think from a certainly from a creative perspective, and for someone who's built a career on creative technology, I think it's a massively exciting time, and the industry needs to rise to that challenge, I think
sometimes we don't give ourselves the credit enough that we have been rising to it. We look at what goes on around us and think somehow we've been left behind.
Yeah.
And what we haven't talked about today is that insight, that data, the technology, the enablers for us to be better. And that's something which isn't necessarily for what we should be doing today. We should be talking about some of the wider issues. But the one thing happens, when I started in this industry, it was all faxes and paper orientation. You would tick schedules of 500 thick A4 reams and send them off to various field buyers.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we have got agentic AI technology that will enable us to be able to do some of the heavy lifting very early doors. The fact that at Billups we've got automated trading with at least 3 of the big 4 media owners does an awful lot of that heavy lifting for us and enables the planners to work on the plans and shape them accordingly to what the client needs are. And therefore, we are looking for people, slightly different people, to be able to come into the business as well. And that's really crucial, because gone are the days where you just need somebody who is buried in Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
You need somebody who thinks differently, who is able to be comfortable with technology, if not embracing it, and challenging us to do better. And that's the type of individuals that I enjoy working with, rather than the people who've been around since paper billboards.
It is quite interesting. They're transferable skills from the online world and from social buyers, and you're starting to see that creep into out of home. I think it's great.
I think what's a shame for the entire out of home agency community is that we have 1 or 2 moments each year, and I'm probably talking about things like the OMA Awards, where people truly get to showcase what they do behind the scenes. It's a classic iceberg scenario. What you see on the streets is generally the icing, if not the cherry on top of the cake. What you don't see is how that cake is made and baked, and how we actually go through the process of getting all the ingredients together to start with. When I think about some of the campaigns that we've worked with, for example, we work with Moju, the ginger shot client, and they created a campaign whereby they would audition individuals through social media to whoever could have it was called the boom face. Whoever would actually take the ginger shot record themselves, and whichever was the most interesting face.
Like a reaction shot then, isn't it?
They ended up on the ads, on the
great.
crosstracks, on the tube car panels. They were part of the usual individuals who were being drafted into the campaign. Nobody knows that level of UGC is taking place, and that's where that's come from. It's something that we know, and that whilst the brand was being created, that elevated and amplified it online. That was brilliant.
And it taps into a cultural moment, something that people are doing. So you've got there's social content, there's video, there's outdoor advertising.
And it's very clever as well, and it does what outdoor is trying to get you to do. It gets tens of thousands of people to try the product.
Yeah.
And so they will then submit their said boom face to be able to get involved in the ad. And you've actually done something which we all wish we could do. You've encouraged loads of people to try, and therefore hopefully they'll come back as repeat customers.
So the question that this is answering that I didn't actually get to is the creative and innovation leaps you're hoping to help boost out of home around the world. I think you've actually answered it, because I think to wrap it up, it's about involving an audience in the story and getting them to take part. And I think the examples that you've given do that, whether it's because you're at a game or a football match and you have a shared common interest in football and you're the brand and the audience working together, or if it's the ginger shots and actually taking part and interacting with the ad and being able to feature part of it. I think that is a good trend to have, to get an audience for not just to witness an advert, but take part in it. And I think that's where we see the deeper emotional responses with people want to get back to the reason that we want to communicate to them is because we want them to be an advocate for a brand.
I think if you can involve the consumer somehow in the ideation or the creation of said ad, then you're more likely to get a better reaction when it goes out as, let's call it, formal advertising. But I'll give you one example of where this worked on so many levels as well. We did a campaign for the RNLI, which was only live when the weather was bright, which obviously in the UK is not guaranteed even through the summer. And this was a campaign called Float to Live, and the poster was it was digitally enabled in locations of course at sunny times, but near beaches in the United Kingdom. And the one great success story was that because there was a lady who'd read this poster, and it gave you the 3 simple maneuvers that you do to save somebody who's in trouble, and she actually saved somebody's life. And literally, it's like, for all the value and everything else that we think we do, our legacy will not be the fact that we saved somebody's life. But this lady read the poster, saw somebody in trouble, knew what to do, and that is, as far as I'm concerned, the best example of somebody being able to enact. Yeah, exactly. So absolutely worked.
Listen, we're pushing up on time, so we've got about 30 seconds. What is your favourite billboard of all time and why?
I could never pick one.
Yeah, it's like picking your favourite child, isn't it?
It is, and there are so many. And I love the creative stuff that we are doing at the moment with digital being so clever. But I am a traditionalist when it comes to out of home. I do love the Araldite cars that are stuck to the billboard from back in the 80s, early 90s. But the one that I was involved with, which again I've seen today in a couple of the presentations that people have done, is the Economist light bulb one. I thought the entire Economist campaign, although we were largely only ever placing the ads, the white ad of red, the copy was always so clever. But the light bulb one, because we had to physically create that light bulb and bring it to life, that was almost like an idea that we kind of birthed.
Yeah.
And so, and I love the fact that everybody else got it.
Yeah.
I thought for a while it was a bit of an in-joke and that just only we understood it. But yeah, I'd definitely say that's always stood out for me.
Yeah, that was a game-changing campaign, a campaign moment for Economist. The first time they'd done a non-copy piece with the light bulb. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Loved it.
Thank you very much for coming on. Hope you enjoy the rest of the Congress.
Likewise, you too. Thank you.
James Harrison, friend to the show, friend to me.
Thank you.
Executive Director, MPN, Dubai.
Part of Dubai Holding.
Part of Dubai Holding.
Yes.
And it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. And actually,
welcome to Behind the Billboard, anyway.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been listening to you for years, both on air and
before we even started.
In real life. Yes, absolutely.
Normally on the golf course.
Yeah, on the way to the golf course at least.
Chatting shit about what's happening in the market right now.
Yeah. True.
Welcome home.
Thank you. Yeah,
London Woo Congress 2026, and you've flown in especially for it.
I have. I think it's been 4 years since I've been in London. I've been back to Birmingham, but not London.
No.
Yeah.
Is it really?
For real.
For reals?
Yeah. All the billboards still look gorgeous. I'm still very proud of my
And still exactly
my
the
town.
same.
Yeah. Just some of the nameplates have got different names on, and that's about it, really.
You're like, who's that?
I was like, who do these operators? They're just they're swapping things around all the time.
I'm going to ask you a question because we're mates and you listen to the show, and you deserve to get asked this question in the way that some other guests have. Do you remember your very first billboard campaign?
I do, and as a young graduate joining Posterscope back in the year 2000. Oh my life, that is a while.
Year 2000.
Yeah, I had a very complex campaign to buy for a video game, a rally video game for Electronic Arts, and they wanted to do a car crashing through a billboard. And I booked one location. I had to go through the rigmarole of then explaining to people that I was actually going to try and crash a car through that billboard. And then it was just so exciting. It got into Campaign magazine, and it was my first foray into buying, but also creativity in out of home. And I bloody loved it. It was awesome.
Is it fair to say that campaign shaped the rest of your
driving skills,
out of home journey? Because you've always been a champion of creativity in the space.
I think so. And actually going through university, I did additional courses. I actually did, as part of my university degree, a section on creativity on out of home. Now, I don't know if anybody else, people say, how did you get into out of home? Well, I fell into that as a career. Well, I actually did a section on creativity. I had to sketch out my own billboards. I did a special campaign I had to present to San Diego Zoo, and it was awesome. So I've always had a bit of a creative heart.
And you've got your red rim glasses on, so that makes you a creative.
Yeah, audio doesn't sell the red rims quite well, but we can describe it to you.
Believe me, listener.
Yeah. I think they match my eyes as well at the moment. They're a little bit red rimmed as well.
Look, I've got a question for you anyway, an official question. In terms of the next 12 months and beyond, what creative and innovation leaps are you seeing in your market that you're hoping to see out of home boost in your market and potentially globally? What's happening in the region in MENA?
Well, I think especially when you come to events like this, we as a region, we will learn a lot, especially when we listen to and we talk to people, not just in the main ballroom, but when we're actually listening to how people are doing things, what tech, what data people are adopting. I think we're going to learn a lot. But what I want to see and what I'm trying to push forwards a little bit more is a bit more collaboration. I don't want to, totally say what Tom's been banging on about for the last day and a half, but collaboration is key for us, not just in terms of sitting around a room and talking to all the other competitors, but in agreeing on methodologies behind data. It doesn't sound as sexy as crashing cars through billboards, but that type of collaboration agreement will create a currency that we can then evolve slightly. Maybe it's for programmatic, or maybe it's so we are seen as a more trusted region when it comes to trading by impression. And I think that's the way the market's moving. We've been identifying for years what our main competitor is, being digital, online. And what we need is a currency that is scalable. And actually what Jean-Francois said this morning, I was almost jumping up and down saying, I think I said it first, was if we can get to a point where we have a global currency, every region is trading, and we have a metrics. Obviously, Gideon's done a great job with his Bible of what an impression is and how we trade by audience. Okay, the World Out of Home organization has got a very good body of people. Yeah, if we can come together and agree something, I think that will rise. The tide will rise across the market. We will be able to move more to an audience trading. So that's what I want to see, and I think our region has always been slightly behind in terms of adopting new strategies. But what we do when we put our mind to it, we can catch up extremely quickly because we can learn from everybody else's mistakes. And that's what we're doing right now. You saw that with the boom in digital. Just after COVID, digital came. We kind of dipped our toe in the water. We tested it, and you could see that actually this works. We can have the technology that works in the sun, in the dust, high temperatures, and everyone jumped on board. It was phenomenal. It was such a huge growth. And I think people are still investing in digital in that way.
In your market, the digital growth physically has happened, right? You've got under your control. You've got the world's biggest billboard. And
we do. It's the unofficial Guinness World Record.
I need to get the officials down there.
Yeah.
But my point is that if the rest of the infrastructure, like the collaboration, like you said, with data, can support all of that digital infrastructure, then you're going to see more than double-digit growth.
Absolutely, and it's making sure. So we now have a new regulatory body within Dubai called MADA Media, and their job is to try and grow the market. And they are looking to, again, using that word, collaborate, not just with the media owners, but with external experts to tell them and give them advice on how do we grow our market. But they also need to bring us on board, because we also know we've got a lot of experience from all over the world within these media operators within Dubai, within the UAE. And I think if they get the momentum, if they get things right, they will be a huge catalyst for growth in our region.
That's good. Well, praise be. My last question for you: your favorite billboard of all time?
Favorite bit, and I do. There's a lot that float through my head, because 26 years of beautiful billboards. But there's one that always comes back to me, and that's the Araldite, the car stuck to a billboard.
Yeah.
But then
also sticks handles to teapots was the line.
But perfect. Your knowledge is unrivaled. But then they did like subsequent ones where they stuck a car,
2 cars
side by side, and it's just those purely genius moments that
use the product demonstration,
and
visual gag,
and it's shareable.
Yeah,
and the fact that ad is still being shared today is it's a timeless thing. It's a timeless thing.
We've just had Ian Potter on, who was one of the creators. Very impressive stuff. It was like, the original sketch still there. So
really,
very good. Yeah, good stuff for us out of home and creative geeks. You're like, wow.
Yeah, but it does, and you everyone's got different opinions on what is the great creative. Yeah, there's a bit of humor, but that to me is all time greatest.
Brilliant. Listen, we're at time, mate. Thank you so much for spending some time with me again.
Absolute pleasure.
Get back downstairs, see if you've won an award or whatever was happening.
I'm gonna get there right now, because I'll just collect anybody's award.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, bud. Thank you.
Ben Milne, straight out the elevator, CEO of APAC for Billups. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we had a pint yesterday, so we had a little catch up.
Just one.
It's great for you to join. For us and for our audience, lots of the things that we've talked about in the past have been around, UK creativity, quite a bit of the US creativity, and quite unforgivably, we haven't done much on Asia. So it's so good to have you on here to talk about the Asian market. Just as you go through your everyday lives being in Singapore, what has been some of the most innovative stuff you've seen in market, not just Singapore, in APAC, innovative or creative thing you've seen in out of home over the last 12 months?
Sure, yeah. So look, I'll talk a little bit about Singapore, but also a bit more broadly about the region. Like all regions, it's not homogenous. Each market has its unique characteristics. I think what I'm seeing in Singapore that I think is really interesting from a kind of creative and innovation perspective, launched a few years ago, the train operating company, your TfL equivalent, so SMRT and their media arm, Stellar Ace, launched an app called Wink, which was a rewards-based app that they've put QR codes on every bus, every train station panel. We have like the Jubilee line. We have have kind of security panels, and there's a QR code next to every boarding gate, effectively, and on the trains. And each time you scan that QR code, you're collecting points. So they're called Wink points.
Oh, right.
And those points you can convert directly into redeemable cash and vouchers in the supermarket and in other retailers across the city. So that's allowed them, it's allowed Stellar Ace as an operator to collect a really rich first-party data set and start to understand their consumers' journeys through these kind of underground environments in a kind of way that's not really possible using traditional kind of data mining methods.
So they've done
stuff.
some data. They're doing data collection, and they're using that data to serve the users back ads, but they're also using that data to give them a tangible reward in the city.
Yeah, and so it's the entire Wink platform and app that powers it is a new media channel for them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's giving them a much richer data set and understanding of their audience, which they then can use to enrich the out of home media sell back to people like
those
us
aren't
and to
QR
brands.
codes on ads. They're QR codes just on infrastructure.
QR codes on infrastructure, yeah,
wow.
not on the ads.
So it's not like a reward for scanning an ad. It's just that you're getting a reward for scanning it.
Effectively, the value exchange is give us your data, tell us where you are, where you're headed, where you're going, and we'll reward you in exchange. So effectively, really kind of trickle down paying the consumers for that data in essence.
Do you think the Far East was definitely the first on the QR code train and stuck with it? I think it took COVID for the rest of the world to catch up, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Asia was kind of ahead in that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of Singapore. And then if you look kind of more broadly in the region, I think some of the interesting innovation that we're seeing. So I was in Korea earlier this year, and one of the things that there's been a huge investment into digitizing the Korean out-of-home landscape, and the government have been heavily involved in this. They've created confusingly titled sometimes ad-free zones, but it doesn't mean no advertising. It actually means no advertising restrictions and regulations.
Right.
So they've released the regulations on the size of screens. They've released the regulations on the brightness of screens. They've released the regulations on full motion and on sound. So you now have 2, soon to be 3 zones across Seoul in Korea, where you have kind of these incredible, scaled digital out-of-home infrastructure, but, a huge patchwork quilt of sites. And one of the interesting things that I've seen is that now I'm not seeing so many flat billboards, but since the whole 3D anamorphic creative
which was born there,
which was born out there, since that's become so popular, now media owners are putting all of their LEDs on the side of a building and then having a small wraparound.
Right. Okay.
So it's not a full kind of L-shaped, or there are a lot of kind of full L-shaped screens, but even what
like curvature.
So even what typically used to have just been a flat billboard, they've actually just put a little strip on the other side of the building, just a little lip, so that 3D content can be used on those screens more effectively, which is something I haven't seen anywhere else, but it's quite prevalent now in Korea. So I think that's something that we might see kind of come out a bit more broadly.
And I guess because it was born there, because anamorphic creative, the first one I saw was that the big wave on the Korean screen. So is that's certainly, from my background in digital at home, it made waves. And I wonder, because it was born in that market, whether it's changed other media owners to go, well, if we build one like this, then we're going to get advertisers wanting to do that, and they can do it on multiple screens.
All across Asia now. So I've been recently in Bangkok, in Jakarta, in Korea, in Seoul, and in Tokyo, and 3D anamorphic content, I'm not going to say it's the norm, but it's certainly in all of those cities, in any given week that I went there, 15 to 20% of the ads running on digital out of home were 3D anamorphic. It's become very kind of normal. So I almost hesitate to call it an innovation anymore, because it's now been accepted as a more effective way to get your message noticed and therefore to use the medium.
And we saw some numbers in this morning's presentations from Jean-Francois just about the growth in the out-of-home market, and certainly in Asia, the digitization is helping that. Is that something you're seeing in Billups billing as well? Are you seeing more advertisers being pushed towards digital because the scale of digital is growing?
Yeah, definitely. But there is, the caveat to it, I think, is I think you also would have seen from the figures earlier today that programmatic is lagging compared to the other regions, and there is the reasons for that need to be investigated. I think the places like Japan, they've been quite progressive actually with Liveboard, with Mastrum. I think they will be driving alongside China a significant part of the current programmatic share in Asia. But outside, in Southeast Asia, programmatic really has really failed to gain any significant traction. And I think advertisers, because of the fragmentation of the landscape in a lot of those markets, advertisers are still keen to ensure that they have a specific share of voice or share of time, that they know that their ads are going to be up when they go to look at it. That mindset is still quite strong, and I think it's holding programmatic back in those markets.
And I guess, it's such a vast area. The UK market is tiny in comparison with geographically, physically much smaller, and you've got lots of countries, lots of space, different cities. The infrastructure is, you've got different media owners in each country. I guess it's just it comes again back to what was discussed this morning about the national associations having a big part to play in trying to drive innovation across all media owners at the same time for things like programmatic to take place effectively.
Yeah, it is. And fragmentation is a problem, right? So some of the markets, such as Thailand, heavily consolidated, Australia, heavily consolidated. And so we've seen kind of digital flourish in those markets. Investment has been kind of free flowing, and return on that investment for media owners has been evident. But if we look at some other markets, whether it's a kind of Indonesia or Malaysia, for example, or Vietnam would be a prime example, hugely fragmented. It's slowed the pace of digitization. Indonesia and Malaysia are relatively good on that front, but Vietnam is lagging, hugely because of just the massive fragmentation. But that fragmentation on the supply side also means that strongly funded and strongly collaborative joint industry committees aren't quite there yet, right? Yeah. And so driving innovation has kind of been difficult in that sense.
And is that hard for Billups as an out-of-home specialist across an entire region? You've got you and Jonathan and the team. Is it harder to plan kind of regional campaigns, or does everything become super national focused?
It's obviously difficult to plan. We've opened new offices this year in Indonesia, in Thailand, and we're just exploring the Philippines at the moment. So having those local experts on the ground is absolutely critical, because each market has its unique qualities, different media owners. Although we're starting to see some consolidation with people like Plan B, obviously now in Singapore as well as Thailand. Focus Media have moved quite aggressively across the region and have operations in many of the markets now, and gaining scale. So yes, it's difficult, but that's kind of why we exist, right? We exist to make it simpler for the brands and advertisers that we're working with to access and get the benefit.
And then from a creative perspective, because of that fragmentation, does unifying creative become harder?
Yeah, there's too many formats. I think Dallas spoke just a little bit earlier on stage here and talked about how he's taken JCDecaux in the UK from 250 different creative specs for digital to 3. We're still in that 250 kind of bracket, and that makes it difficult. It means, I do think it negatively impacts the kind of potential to scale up advertisers' investment. So I think that's a challenge that the industry probably needs to try to get over.
Listen, we're running out of time because we've got a queue of people to come, but I want to ask you your favorite billboard of all time and why.
Okay, so this is so I kept thinking about this, trying to look for a different one, but I kept coming back to the same one, so I'm going to have to go with it. It's the Araldite billboard, with the car stuck on a billboard by Araldite.
Our number one billboard of all time on our top 100.
Is it? I didn't know that. Yeah. So I saw that quite early on in my career, and it actually inspired me, and I was fortunate enough to be working working on Absolute Vodka at the time and EMI Records, both of whom and BMW Mini actually, all of whom were doing a lot of special builds, and that actually became the genesis of a creative innovations division within Posterscope at the time, actually, called Hyperspace. And so that was the one that ignited my passion for innovation in this space. And yeah, I just the simplicity of it was brilliant.
I spoke to Rich Simpkins about this just the other day, and he was back there with you back there.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
He talks about that fondly as well. So yeah, thank you very much for coming in. I know you've got a busy schedule, so I'm going to let you get on with it, and I've got the next person waiting to come in.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks.
Elizabeth McIntyre, CEO of the Outdoor Media Association Australia and Move. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thanks for having me, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Just full disclosure, everyone else that has been on the show so far, we've recorded in person in London, but we missed you. We missed each other we were passing ships at the WOO conference, so we managed to get this in remotely as you've been at home. So how's the jet lag, firstly?
Well, we're getting there, I think I'll just say. But I did not meet you for good reason. It's because all of our wonderful creative agencies were taking out some fantastic awards. So
I mean, it's the best reason. It's the best reason.
It is.
You were too busy because you were collecting awards, and that's the best reason. And also, am I right in thinking that they have announced regional congress in Australia? Is that right?
They have next year in Sydney. Yep.
So February. You are going to be our hosts for the next WOO conference then?
We are. We're very excited. We're hoping everyone will make the trip down under.
That's really good. I mean, I hope so. I mean, we'll all be suffering the same jet lag as you're currently experiencing. Listen, let's crack on. I do have a question for you. And we saw lots of amazing chat throughout the Congress programming about how out of home is growing around the world, and what the incredible stats for the industry, and what a terrific playground it is for creatives to play in. And obviously, given our audience and the people that listen to our show, that's our primary function, is we want to excite people about what's happening in the out of home space. And our creatives are all around the world. For the podcast, we've got people listening in Australia and in New Zealand and in the Far East and all over the place in the US and South America. So it's great to get you on for the Australian view of what's happening in the market. And that I think one of the things that we've been in awe of is the innovation and creativity that's coming out of Australia. And that's been proven by people winning awards at things like at WOO and at Cannes year after year. So I'd like to ask you what the most innovative or creative thing you've seen out of home in the Australian market has been in the last 12 months, and explain us the campaigns and why you think they're innovative and creative.
Well, I think there's one that we all now know of, which is Selleys, if you can take it, it's yours. But what I love about that campaign is part of what we do is that the association looks at over sort of 900 pieces of creative a year to see whether it passes all of our ad standards. So this was sort of one at the start that we were involved in. And it really evolved from taking it like more stealing things around, like whether you were going to steal something out of your sister's room or your sibling's room. And what I love about it is that firstly, you could only do this on outdoor. I mean, where could you get the proof of product, the creativity of just being able to put it there, and then that interaction that you can only have with the public in a space that is inviting to want people to interact with it. So that would be one of the most creative things that I've seen. And I think it's been, awarded and rewarded for that creativity. The other one, I think, which again speaks to the power of the medium, is the eye test, and about sort of that whole, what are you looking at? What are you seeing? And again, this is sort of something that is where out of home really shines, about that public service, about being part of the fabric of society and part of that journey, and just imagining that, on your daily commute, you can also check whether you need glasses or not, and that's going to take you straight to where you need to be. So I think, look, those are two really innovative campaigns. But, you know, what we know as well, and you've alluded to, we have a series called Out There, and we had Lucinda Barlow on, the international CMO for Uber. And we are really impressed that Australia is always seen as a bit of a test market. And so a lot of those campaigns, in fact, I think she was saying over 14 campaigns have originated in Australia and been taken all around the world. So we're incredibly proud of that.
I think, you know, as I say, some of the stats that are around on the Australian market for digitization, there's been terrific leaps and bounds taken, and, you know, started on obviously all the major cities, but you're an incredibly transit audience, whether that's through public transport or through cars as well. So you've got opportunities to talk to consumers digitally, but you know, in those public areas, to do something that is immersive and get, you know, like the Selleys thing, where you get people involved in the advert and create content for other channels is good. And we've, you know, there's certainly something that we've seen in other markets and other developed markets where out of home becomes that trusted medium that allows creatives to play in it, where you've got, you know, people taking part in the campaign rather than just witnessing it, which I think is key to the success of that campaign.
And what I loved also about that campaign is there was the execution that everyone sees, but all around in different capital cities, they'd put just one thing there. So, you know, that there was always that sort of scaling up of that creative to make it special but unique in every different sort of location.
I love, so one of the things that we did for our 100th episode special was we effectively counted down the top 100 billboards of all time. And our number one, and this was voted for by the alumni from the podcast as well. So we've had a terrific number of people on the podcast from all walks of creativity. But everyone votes for their favorite billboard of all time at the end of the show. And the one that came out top was from the early 80s, which was in the UK for Araldite, which is where they glued a car to the side of a billboard. And one of the things I love about the Selleys piece is it's taken that on as a kind of, there is an iconic billboard and here is something where we can develop it onto something else and get people to take it. Obviously, you couldn't steal the car off a billboard, but for the Selleys thing, it's like, you know, if you can steal this kayak, then you can have it. And I think that's brilliant. In terms of the next 12 months and beyond, what creative or innovative things are you seeing in market that are really helping drive the Australian market, and that you think that the global markets can learn from in the out-of-home space?
Look, I certainly think that what we've seen in the Australian market is a lot of digitisation of our assets. You know, a huge amount of millions of dollars have been spent turning, obviously, classic signs into digital signs. And I think what that allows for is the opening up of programmatic, and, you know, where you see that creative that is really designed for seasonality, or, you know, in Australia when it gets really hot, you know, we've got some fantastic ads out there that are promoting, you know, lawn hoses. So, you know, they sort of switch on when it's over 30 degrees, ice creams in particular. And I love that because that really speaks to what out of home is about. It's contextual and it's timely. And that sort of is allowing more brands to be more creative, but also to be able to contribute to an atmosphere that is happening while people are in it. And I think that's just something really special.
No, I agree with you. I think, you know, I think if the Australian market has something to learn from certainly the UK market and the US market, is that I think very quickly when programmatic was at the dawn and digitization all happened before that, dynamic content was rich and it was really strong. You know, there's a lot of thought into it. And I think over time in the UK market and in the US market, it's been almost templatized and dumbed down. And I think we need to get back to that time for the UK market and the US market where there's more creative thought into the reactive campaigns. And I think what we're seeing in Australia is still a lot of thought going into a creative thought into it, rather than it just being, I want to do it because I want to be the first, I need to be the media first doing this, is actually intelligent thought into the creative. And I think, you and I spoke off there about electric cars and the network that you've got there. Can you tell the audience about what you're seeing on those screens?
Yeah, I mean, one of our media publishers is Jolt, which is obviously electrical vehicle charging stations. And, again, it's allowing, different conversations to have for brands. So, for example, in our most recent episode of Out There with BMW, they obviously have a lot of presence with large format digital, but then they were able to complement that. And I think this is the wonderful thing about out of home, all the different formats and making sure they complement, not necessarily, always say the same thing, but tell that story. And what I love on the Jolt screens is that you can have up to something like 300 different creative options there. But if you're filling up, if you're charging your car, fraudulent slip there.
You're filling up with electricity, so it's fine.
Yeah. If you're charging your car and it can tell that, say, what manufacturer of that car is, so it can tell perhaps that you're not in a BMW, an ad can come up from BMW that will say, if you had a BMW, you'd be charged by now. And I just love that interaction and that sort of targetness and direct approach. And again, that's complementing the cascade of out of home, but on all these different formats that's meaningful. If you've got an electric car, you're in that mind of now, okay, what other options do I have? So that's sort of one of the things that we're excited about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We had on the last Woo Congress special, we had on the team from New Commercial Arts who have been talking about, out of home around the world having its heyday again and being something that the creatives in agencies are looking forward to creating for. So they say, that one of the things they're asking when they're being briefed is out of home on the plan, because they want to create stuff for out of home. And I think one of the things that digitization has done, and the amount of data that we have at our disposal to create stuff from, means that creatives now aren't just having to write one billboard. They have the opportunity to write 500 or 600, 700,000 billboards. And recently we had on someone talking about a dairy milk campaign in the UK, and we've had on the British Airways teams from Uncommon. And they wrote thousands of billboards and thousands of different lines for those campaigns. And actually, it's a really exciting time to be a creative, because you're not just having to write one billboard that's that's seen everywhere. You can write things that are contextual to people's environment, or to an audience at a given time, or to the car they're driving. There's so much more you can do, and it's a much bigger playground for creatives to play in. And I think that's exciting for everyone.
I think creatives would agree as well that they love having constraints. And I think what out of home is that sort of discipline of refining your message. And now more than ever, where you're seeing so much in a day and so many different screens, the ability to be able to get your message across very, very simply. And even I think Heinz has done some fantastic ads where they've just kind of put the product, and that's just that years of brand. And then how do you get that into the vernacular creatively? And simplicity is key. And I think that that's, again, something that out of home offers. And we love that creatives are embracing that at the moment.
Yeah, me too. I'll give you one example that Matthew Straker-Taylor from NCA brought up as one of his favourite ones, and it was in Australia. It was for Specsavers, where they took over the board outside Sydney Airport and said, "Welcome to Melbourne," and they took the board outside Melbourne and said, "Welcome to Sydney." So, and obviously the line, they should have gone to Specsavers, which is brilliant. Listen, just as we wrap up,
won our award last year, which is fantastic.
That's good. I mean, it's good. And the Specsavers are fortunate. We've actually had the team on that wrote that line 25 years ago. They've got such a rich playground with should have gone to Specsavers, and it's in our everyday language. So they have the right to go and do something like that in a way that other opticians don't necessarily yet, because they haven't got that backstory and emotional backstory for an audience. Just before we wrap up, I always ask everyone the same question: what's your favourite billboard of all time?
Oh, I think I would say, because it's something that I've grown up with, I think it would be the Coke sign in King's Cross in Sydney. I went to school near that area and it's still there. And I love what they just did on it, their 50th anniversary. It was like, what are your stories about meeting under the sign? So it's iconic for Australia, and I can't go beyond that one.
Oh, perfect. Elizabeth, thank you for spending your evening with us. My morning. You can get the teenagers; they're allowed to make noise again now. But I really do thank you for joining me from the other side of the world, so that we can get your voice onto the podcast.
And Dan, thanks for everything you're doing. And I love the amplification of creativity in out of home, and we're here for it, and we want to amplify it as much as we can. So thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you very much. Sarah Parks, Managing Partner at Talon, and Danielle Austin, MD at Evolve, which is part of the Talon Group. Welcome to Behind the Billboard, and welcome to the Woo Congress 2026.
Exciting times.
Thanks, Dan. And we are wearing our Women in Woo rosettes.
Yes.
So, yes.
Fellows, a missed opportunity there of woo men.
Oh.
Woo. But then it's
we are not into corny jokes, so we're fine.
Have you been enjoying the Congress so far?
It's been full on, really good content. Amazing kickoff from Jean-Francois, kind of setting the scene. Yeah, really good energy.
Yeah, brilliant. And Nick Bryan's session then was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, what a great lineup of engaged speakers. And we just can't be having the same conversations in another 10 years.
That's why Jean-Francois was pointed. Yes. He was really pointed.
He was.
Like, you have to
do this. Make it global.
That needs to be kind of cut into bite size that we can take out, and that needs to be shared by lots of the out-of-home community.
Well, listen, we've only got a few minutes because I know we need to rush down to the next gig downstairs. Danielle, I've got a quick question for you. What has been the most innovative or creative thing you've seen on out-of-home in your market, or done by the agency in the last 12 months? Give us an example of what's happening.
So actually, hot off the press, Evolve just run a campaign with robots. In Dallas, serving cold coffee to delegates of an AI conference. It was prompting QR engagement, finding out more information about the brand, and when you engaged, you got served a nice ice cold coffee. So reaching audiences where there is not always traditional out-of-home panels, and it's just, it's really refreshing to see brands stepping outside of their comfort zone, embracing new technology, new ideas, and bringing them to life.
It's a trend we've seen quite recently on the show. Actually, lots of people sending us in stuff that go on our Ooh, That's Nice segment. Non-traditional media out of home, and I think that goes back to what Jean-Francois was saying earlier on, is that this is the most trusted medium when you talk to consumers, and so being able to do something in an environment, conference, and do something that's a sponsored piece of activity just gets that bit of trust with the brand. So and using robots, I mean, who doesn't love that? That's really brilliant. Love
really,
it.
Really cool. And again, our biggest sector this year is gaming. So again, seeing gaming brands coming into the out-of-home space, using larger formats like the Outernet, Piccadilly, to really engage with audiences that sometimes you traditionally perceive are indoors.
Yeah.
And they're bringing real life entertainment onto the streets of London, Paris, Berlin. So I think that it's a trend that we will continue to see carry on for the coming years.
And entertainment brands have always been a big supporter of out of home. Yeah. They've got an ever-changing product, so especially the big movie houses. There's I assume you're seeing stuff globally for the movie houses.
We are, and I think Tim Bleakley just done an amazing show of a Netflix launch for Stranger Things, the latest season in Stockholm, and how they're using
projection,
but on a very kind of unique building facade, and how it's making the creative work harder, and therefore getting standout, more impressions, more shareable content for Netflix as a platform.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And Sarah, you've been sitting there patiently waiting. What's happening in the market now that the rest of the world could learn from, do you think?
I mean, we heard about it today, and as we're sort of getting more digitized and connecting the dots globally, but what we're seeing, especially Talon across US and Netherlands, is moving more from place-based to audience planning. So going and finding the audience that you want and then making sure that you're delivering, the right message at the right moment in the right place, and then connecting those dots globally.
And how do you do that? Is it a tool-based thing?
I'm glad you've asked, Dan. I'm glad you've asked.
It's almost like I know the answer when I'm asking.
A shameless plug for Talon's Atlas Insights and Planner. And we're already using agentic AI to speed up part of the manual process. But yeah, that is how we're doing that and being able to connect the dots globally.
We're just going to finish up on your question to both of you. Your favourite billboard of all time and why?
Do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, you go.
So this is an oldie but a goodie, and also the fact that this was a campaign that happened over 10 years ago and is still being built on. So the original campaign was the Spotify It's Been Weird, where it took real user data and took that to create witty, culturally relevant moments. I think the one line that stuck out was the dear person who played sorry 42 times on Valentine's Day. What did you do? That is just
relevant.
So amazing.
Data,
10 years later, we're still talking about
very
it.
Very good, yeah.
So that's it for me.
Those ones are not just in the D&AD annuals, they're in the history books. They're good campaigns.
Absolutely.
Yep. I'm going to throw it back to probably one, Dan, that you was part of, which was Dracula. I think it created a real moment for out of home. Having BBC that had commissioned that piece, I think was special at the time, because I think it brought the creativity that was available to whether it was big studios, and we've just seen since that moment, I feel brands lent in, and it gave them an opportunity to have a look at what could be done locally within London, but then also globally, and it's still a campaign that is often referenced by BBC still today, and we're just about to work on a campaign with them for Bluey, and that brief came off the back of it was the team that originally worked on Dracula. So
I can't take any credit. That was Jay Young and his team doing that bit. So I know that campaign very well, and it's a fantastic one. I think definitely one of those that it's not just one billboard; it's the movement that it creates afterwards. So there's a socializable moment for it as well. So yes, good choices. Thank you for coming in. I know it's quick.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Women in Woo. Woo, woo.
Jaime Byrdak, CEO of North America Billups. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome to London.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Have you been enjoying the Woo Congress so far?
I have been. It's been fantastic. Lots of great programming.
It's a back-to-back day so far, so I appreciate you finding the time to come and talk to us and our listeners.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things we're doing in this episode, we're looking at what's happening around the world from a creative and innovation perspective. And I know we were talking off air about some of the great things that Billups have been doing in that space. And you mentioned a campaign that's happened recently in the last 12 months where you've used some interesting technology to deliver a great creative message. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when we were speaking a little bit earlier, we're talking about a lot of innovation as well, too. And I think that when we work with a lot of our advertisers and our clients and the agencies and how we partner, there's always a storytelling journey. So it definitely does start with the tool. It starts with the audience. It starts with how do we reach them? How do we find them within the local market? Because all markets have different nuances. And so an example is we were recently with Nike surrounding, I'll just use the New York Marathon, for example. And that is something that, reaching runners, we want to profile out where are runners within the market, how can we reach them, their journey throughout the marathon. Obviously, there is a marathon journey as well.
There's a day.
So, you start with something, knowing Nike, just really out of the box, exciting, never been done before. That is what they pride themselves on. And so they wrapped an old Staten Island ferry that, if you're familiar, Pete Davidson and Colin Jost had purchased.
Yeah.
And they were using it. It was decommissioned, so for just an entertainment venue and space. So we wrapped it. And it was really creative in how they used it, because I think what they did was they created that just standout messaging, such as, New York won't carry you, it pushes you. And so it's Staten Island, obviously, where the marathon begins. But then they had walls, they had link creative, just speaking to these runners throughout the process. And so we definitely used our tools in tech. We have, several of the locations throughout the marketplace that we're able to then vet and look at the media owner's inventory and see how it indexes against our audiences and the runners and just the journey throughout the market, just to help make it that much stronger. And it's really that storytelling piece.
And how does that brief come to you? Does that brief come from Nike? Does it come from one of their agencies? Does it come from the creatives? How does that work?
So Nike is like a best-in-class example of how we work. It's an interagency team with the client. So everything is so collaborative with all of the different agency partners that lead strategy and multimedia strategy in the room with the creatives, coming up with the concepts and bringing it to life to make sure that messaging really does resonate and you marry the message and the medium. And then we're able to help bring it to life.
Sounds like a utopia for most brands that we've worked with before. It's like it's great that everyone's talking together about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the team that specifically works on the business is lock and step with just all of the different partners, and it really truly does create magic because there's just a large collaboration on how to bring something to life for every campaign that they lead.
And so from an innovation perspective, Billups have built tools to enable this to happen at speed, I assume.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the tools, we also have our own AI, Audrey, that our chief technology officer had built. And so what that really helps us is it knows out of home, and it helps us do things a little bit with more speed and precision so that we're able to be more strategic. So the things that take us longer, the mundane tasks, building maps, profiling audiences, taking a look at all of the different inventory in the market. This, our AI, our Audrey tool internally that we use can really help us do that much faster and really profile out markets to make sure that we're doing things in a very smart, cohesive way.
And does that information then filter back through to the creative agency when they're coming up to help them with the creative process then?
Absolutely. There's so many different ways we can use it. So we have something called creative mapping. Actually, maybe I should start first by talking about just the audiences and where we're going and profiling out really the target. That's something we really can drill into is target audiences and how they move throughout the market and any kind of nuances. There's so much information that we use with our data stack that's loaded within there that it can tell us exactly how we can find a specific target audiences. And then it helps us even custom index particular units that index really high against this target audience. So it profiles out where in the market you want to be.
Down to individual screens, locations.
Down to individual screens and locations. And then when they're in the creative testing period, there's something we can partner with them as well. It's called creative mapping. And what that does is it'll take a look at the creative and in situation, really show where your attention is going to, and it profiles out with almost a map or
like an
color coding
map,
Correct. Yeah. So so it shows you like where the most attention is, and you want it on your logo, you want it on your brand, you want to make sure that it stands out, that it's not too busy, that it has the right colors. So those are definitely things that we are able to kind of support with the data and the tech that our data team has built to really make it just that much stronger.
Amazing. I mean, one of the questions is going to be, what do you think the rest of the world can learn? But I think you've explained it already. That's a fairly cohesive story on what sounds like a great campaign. So I am going to finish up instead and ask you, what is your favorite billboard of all time and why?
Oh, goodness. I feel, there's a lot of ones that I've worked on personally that I love, but I always kind of go back to, and it's because I love photography, but shot on an iPhone, which was actually called out today. I just feel like, and actually I think that's brought up a couple of times in the past month. I just feel like it's brilliant. It's easy. It's showing the product. Everybody gets it.
So good. Such a great campaign. User-generated content. Built mass. It's really good.
And as somebody that is just very passionate about out-of-home and photography, that one I thought was really cool.
It's a great choice. And, on the show, we had our top 100 billboards of all time. It's in the top 100, but not enough people, I think, appreciate the scale of that campaign. That's a global campaign.
Absolutely.
It's not regional. It's not a one-off. It's an ongoing thing. They've done it with multiple iPhones. It's an incredible piece of creative, and it's a joy to see it on billboards. So, great choice. Thank you so much for joining me. I know there's still some programming on downstairs and you'll want to go and see it, but really do appreciate the time to come on and tell our listeners all about a great campaign.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Simon Wall, CEO of the Glynt Group of companies based out of Cape Town in South Africa. Welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
And welcome to London.
Yeah, can't wait to get into a bit of a discussion.
When did you get in?
I have family in the UK, so I arrived on Saturday, but I've been here since Monday and have been wandering around looking at all the wonderful do and around London at the moment.
When was the last time you were in London?
So about a couple of years ago, but for my sins, like most South Africans, I lived and worked in pubs and I was a butcher at Harrods.
Oh, really?
Yep, indeed.
Great claim to fame that.
Plucked turkeys in the Lake District. So I've done my time in the UK.
You've done your time.
So I know it well, and it's nice to be back.
But back home in South Africa, you run Glynt Group of companies. So give our listeners an insight.
Glynt is it's a collective of around 5 different companies. One of the primary businesses was a company that's been going for about 20 years, a company called Tractor Outdoor, which is probably one of the larger digital out-of-home businesses, static out-of-home businesses in South Africa, around sort of 300 digital boards and around 400 static boards. But we own that infrastructure. We sell that infrastructure. I've got a team that looks after that. We have another company called Innovation, which is it looks after the V&A waterfront, which is the largest tourist destination in Africa, pretty much like your Westfield in London. And that's based in Cape Town. And then we have a company called BMT, which looks after all the digital LED screens across our portfolio, as well as other partners. So we import our own screens, install our own screens, run all of our own SLAs. And then another company we have is called Polygon. It's about 3 years old. It's the largest network of non-owned digital screens that are programmatically enabled in Africa. We've got about 5,000 to 7,000 digital screens across South Africa, across multiple venues, probably 60 different venues. But all of those screens are you're able to serve via DV360. We've just signed up Mauritius Airport. We work in Kenya, Nigeria, Addis Ababa. And you are able to now serve digital programmatic campaigns, but via one single point of contact across a multiple network of screens.
Wow, you must be a very, very busy
man.
no,
it's been pretty good. And then we've actually got another business which we just launched last year, a company called Ignis, which is a technology business. We recently acquired a company called My Cards, which is one of the biggest loyalty card aggregator apps in South Africa. But so most of your loyalty cards, people have got multiple cards in their wallets. Some people, they have different apps. They use all different
shops.
So what we've done is built an application that has all your loyalty cards on one single point of contact. Right. So you can just obviously open that app and you can pretty much tap and accrue all your points in one area. That does allow us to record and know exactly where people go and how to shop, and it gives us quite a unique opportunity to have location-based data based on the various retail partners that we work with within those apps. So some of the biggest retailers are all work quite closely within that app ecosystem. And so it enables us to actually have a bit deeper understanding of our clients, where they shop, how they shop, when they actually clip their card, tap their card, so we can actually build that, and it creates like a unique data overlay that not many of our competitors can actually operate in.
And with all of those companies that you preside over, there's obviously a complementary technology and ability to be creative across each of the offerings.
100%. So the primary aim of the business is just to see how many, pretty much every single one of the businesses interact with one another. And so we've built a very nice team that operates quite sort of hand in glove with each other. So we know exactly who's doing what and how. And we often do cross-pollination campaigns which work quite nicely together.
It's really interesting. It's not the same model I've heard in other places. So it's interesting to hear. I do have a question for you though, an official question, as I have been asking questions all the way through. In terms of the next 12 months and beyond, in the African market, because I know you cover more than just SA, what creative and innovation leaps are you hoping to see that will help boost out of home in the market, and therefore potentially globally, if people are learning from those examples?
I think our market is very different to a lot of the sort of international markets. I use the term first world. You can't see the air quotes, but one of the innovations that we've actually built out recently, which we've just received as of about 5 minutes ago, silver for our, thank you. Not quite gold, but we'll take it.
No, I'll take a silver any day.
Is we've rolled out solar panels across all of our schools. So one of the concessions that we have within our sort of bylaws and municipal environments is that they're very good at, or they allow you to install digital billboards within NGOs, non-governmental organizations, schools, etc. And about 3 years ago, we had a thing called load shedding. I don't know whether you're familiar with it, but for those of you that are not from South Africa, load shedding is when the power goes off randomly because the grid's overload. So we ended up having to install
mass blackouts in areas.
Basically mass blackouts. So we ended up having to install inverters and batteries in all of our billboards just to keep the lights on. Fast forward 2 years later, the problem's been solved. But for those of you that know, having a battery and inverter is pretty much 50% of solar consumption. So on the back of that, we then started rolling out solar on every single one of our schools across South Africa. So we've just launched a project called Net Zero, where we are pretty much probably 70% of the way there, where we've got a school or an NGO that we actually have billboards on. We actually produce all of the power we need for the billboard itself. But over and above that, we've actually doubled up or tripled up or even quadrupled up in some of the spaces in the schools. And then we provide power back to the schools. And then we record the amount of power that we've actually been producing. And the idea is that in the next probably year or so, we will be net zero because our entire network will actually be self-producing in terms of power. So that was one of the opportunities we kind of were put forward.
That's really amazing
right now. So yeah, I think it is. It's an African solution to an African problem.
No, but we heard this morning from. I've mentioned this a few times on this podcast. Jean-Francois did a keynote speech this morning and talking about how out-of-home media owners and the out-of-home industry gives back to communities, and it's a relatively unsung thing. Everyone, the thing that everyone sees in our industry is the billboard, is the poster, is the output, is a digital screen, and the consumer assumption is that that's a really inefficient way to do it. It's paper, it's paste, it's digital, it's pixels, it's burning electricity. But what people don't see is the things that you're talking about
I think my reply to that will be two. There's one, it's obviously, there's some people see that as a marketing opportunity for the industry. But I think for me, I'm a big believer in the fact that you're a place-based business. So we get permission from the municipalities and we get permission from the landlord to actually build a site in a particular location. What people fail to see is getting permission and buy-in of the community. And I think that's something people quite often forget about, the fact that, if somebody says, I've got an approval for a site, you might have municipal approval, you might have landlord approval, but the reality is that you've actually got to get buy-in from the community to have that thing. But point being is that, the moment your community get buy-in and they see the value that's being added by that particular asset, they actually believe in the asset. And also they support the adverts that are being put in it already.
Yeah.
And we've been very kind of intentional about how we and what we build and also the community buy-in from that. So this campaign that we've been running specifically about the Net Zero project has been a massive success. It's the schools see the benefit. Their electricity bills are going down. I mean, the rentals that we actually pay to the schools probably pay for a couple of teachers already. Now all of a sudden we're now paying for all of the electricity on top of that. And it's a great story, and also
story.
For any other outdoor media owner out there, those tenants, they want to keep you on, they want to renew your leases, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I'm a big believer that the longest deal in the world is a fair deal. So the moment you've got a fair deal where there's a really quid pro quo and a 50-50 relationship with the tenant, the landlord, and the infrastructure that you're putting on, it's a win for everyone.
That is a great story, and I think it's the perfect one to finish on, except for one question. I have to ask you your favorite billboard of all time.
So I'm probably going to say one of mine.
You have to.
So we won, the last time we won an award, I'm probably going to show my age here, but it's probably about 15 years ago. We won an OBE award in the US for a Emirates vertical garden. Everybody does vertical garden billboards now. I'd like to think we were one of the first. It was 2012. I ran a vertical garden campaign for the Emirates Airlines in South Africa. And we basically built an entire billboard out of vertical gardens. Plants grow. And I mean, it's pretty common now. And now it seems pretty regular.
No, but you paved the way for those things to happen.
But yeah, it was a really great campaign. And I think also it was when our business was just starting out.
Yeah.
And we were kind of
a seminal moment in the business.
It was one of those things where all of a sudden we no longer just a little business out of Cape Town. I think people stood up and took notice of it. So, it's my favorite billboard. It's one of those things that kind of put our business on the map, and it made people wake up and go like, hang on, these are guys we want to take seriously, and we can do innovation stuff. I mean, we've done. Oh wait, I have another one as well. One of my other favorite billboards was I did an installation for Coca-Cola about 10 years ago, where I built a 25-meter long working xylophone, and it was basically I used a sound installation artist who built the Coca-Cola sort of ribbon.
Yeah.
And then we actually had the phonetically correct Coke jingle whenever you ran a stick across it. So and it was built on ground level. It was in an area, and it was on an aquarium in PE in South Africa, Port Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And so when kids were running with little sticks, and they could actually drag their stick
and
across
it,
they'd
jingle.
actually made the ding 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 ding. I think that's right. And actually made the Coke jingle. So I love the sort of feel.
Tactile,
I love the tactile stuff. I love the. Most of my business now is digital, programmatic, DSPs, SSPs, pick an acronym. But I'm a big fan of the original, just sculptural work.
That is great work.
That's kind of where my genesis of my business is.
It's brilliant, and I hope all of our listeners. I'll get the pictures of those and I'll put them up onto the into the feed. But thank you so much for spending some time with us here. I'm sure we'll spend some more time together this evening and talk about some more fun stuff.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Well, that was brilliant, wasn't it, mate? Oh no, hold on. You're not here. I'm all alone. I hope you all really enjoyed it. I know you had to listen to me for most of it and not Mr. Todd, as he's wanging his way through France by now, probably, and halfway into, I think Germany was his first stop. Anyway, he's interrailing like most old age pensioners do once they get to a certain age. Oh, for fuck's sake, he's just sent me another voice note.
Mate, just a quick check-in, see how it was. That was an amazing lineup of guests we had, so hopefully we got some really good stuff in there. I will definitely try and have a listen as a listener before I get my next train. We're off to Slovenia next. Anyway, look, see you in a few weeks when I'm back. Take care, and please say thanks to all the gang at Woo, who are amazing. Woo!
He's so funny. Anyway, listen, we do need to say thanks again to our friends at Woo, to Tom Goddard, to Mark Fliss, to the brilliant Tim Bleakley, and to Anna, who have all helped us be here in London for this amazing congress. We do need to say thanks to Alicia again at Hilton for organising our makeshift studio here, and thanks to all the lovely guests that we've had. We've definitely filled up our time here. We have had a non-stop parade of people from across the world, and it's just been great to hear all of the amazing stuff that's happening in everyone's markets, and what's happening creatively, and hopefully inspire everyone to get outdoors more. So we'll see you back for regular programming from 2 weeks' time. So we're looking forward to some amazing new guests, and back to our regular programming. Thanks for listening. Bye.